Our guy Darrell thinks that it's likely that Auburn struggles against South Alabama early on Saturday.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us. There's questions at running back. There's plenty of things we want to see on Saturday. We'll get to that. Darrell, just talking off air, do you think that it's fairly likely that Auburn struggles early against South Alabama?
I do, and I want people to listen to what I'm saying very closely. I don't think that Auburn's not a superior football team to South Alabama. I don't think that Auburn isn't going to win comfortably. I think they are. I think they are. In fact, they could even cover. I just think this. I think South Alabama is not Ball State. They're a better football team than Ball State. I think the Sun Belt is a really good football conference that has given Power 4 teams all kind of trouble over the history of the last couple of years. Now, depending on how good you think Clemson is, we can just go back to last week as a point of reference. Troy had Clemson on the ropes, right? Sure. In Clemson. So the Sun Belt is a really good conference with really good teams, with really good schemes and some good athletes. So I think early in the game, there is going to be a point at Jordan-Hare Stadium where people are going to be looking at each other a little frustrated, a little uncomfortable. South Alabama defensively is going to give up a lot of points, but they are pretty good offensively.
Well, and defensively, they'll muddy it up.
They'll muddy it up defensively. Absolutely. So I think that, Auburn's going to get into the 40s. I think they win comfortably, but I could see a scenario, close to halftime where it's not as big of a spread as people think. So I want people to hear me. It's all relative. If you're beating Texas A&M or South Carolina or Kentucky by 10 points going into halftime, you're really comfortable. If you're beating South Alabama by 10 or 14, it's uncomfortable because the expectation is this is a group of 5 team that you should be blowing the doors off of. So I think it's all relative. I think if you're within 2 touchdowns, if South Alabama's within 2 touchdowns of Auburn at any time before you get into the second half, people are going to feel a little bit frustrated by that. I think it all comes out in the wash at the end, Auburn's depth, Auburn's talent. But don't be surprised if South Alabama hangs around a little bit early in this game because they're not Ball State.
Yeah, well, I mean, mathematically, if they're up 2 touchdowns, they're on pace to cover against South Alabama. The line's 25.5, according to our friends at FanDuel. So, I don't think that would be an unusual score at the half. To me, it's what does it look like? Is it 21-7 because you turn the ball over on your own 20? Or did they have one big play where they busted, a 60-yard run or a 60-yard pass or something? I do think there are situations where what it looks like could matter too. I mean, not all 2 touchdown games of the half are equal. Not all of them are the same. 1 because of opponent, 2 because of there is a game flow that is going to happen on Saturday. Another thing about this is yes, Auburn plays South Alabama, but this is about getting ready for Oklahoma the following week. And if you need to struggle against South Alabama to put yourself in a situation against Oklahoma, whether you're watching, the coaching staff is already prepping for Oklahoma, or maybe there's some element of looking ahead, which I don't think is as big of a deal as some people seem to make it out to be. Or Hugh Freeze and this offensive coaching staff chooses to do the same thing that they did against Ball State, call very vanilla drop back passing, and you don't see much RPO, you don't see much QB run against South Alabama. That's fine too. Some of it just depends on what it looks like, Darrell, because it's not about this game. It's about next Saturday.
There are factors that you just mentioned that historically Auburn has struggled with in the exact same scenarios you just described. I know this is a different team in a different year. Auburn is getting ready to go on the road against LSU a few years ago, of course, under a different coach, and struggles to beat a Sun Belt opponent in Georgia State. They are getting ready to play Alabama a couple years ago, and they struggle mightily against New Mexico State. So this whole factor that if you are in a superior opponent, that kids don't know that and feel that, they do. Secondly, I do think, I don't call it a trap game because I don't think Auburn loses it, but I do think there's an element of looking ahead, especially with the Jackson Arnold narrative and going back home to Oklahoma. And let's be honest, you can see a top 15, top 20 matchup. Okay, Oklahoma in the top 15, perhaps Auburn in the top 20. Maybe. I think those things matter. I think it's not enough for an upset, but I do think it's enough to maybe have this game be a little bit, I could see a scenario 21-10 at some point, maybe going into the half and 11-point game. And people are like, what, look. If
it's 21-10, Auburn wins by 4 touchdowns when it's all said and done.
Yeah, if it's 21-10 at halftime, wouldn't that mean it's on pace to be 42-20?
I just think Auburn's going to score more in the second half than they do the first half.
And that's good. I mean, and that's very, very likely. I'm saying that at some point in the game, there will be a little bit of I feel like that they're not enough separation as they should be, as their people would be comfortable with, is all I'm saying.
I got you. Yeah. And I mean, it's an earlier game than I think most people would prefer at home. And just historically, that seems to be when Auburn almost, does some weird stuff. I think the talent in the trenches is so much better than it has been in a long time, where I do think it's going to eliminate some of that. Not all of it. Turnovers could still happen. Bad decisions could still happen. But it being more lopsided in the trenches than if this game was played 2 years ago or even last year, I do think it's easier. Like, your floor is so much higher because you're trench play. And like, that's why you recruit. That's why they spent so much money in recruiting and in the transfer portal. And I do think that is going to be something that could help Auburn early if they were to struggle like you're predicting.
Every year is different. I just know that historically over the last 3 or 4 years, Sun Belt teams have hung around early and given some SEC, even really, really good SEC teams, a little bit of trouble early on. And then there's separation. I think it's like Tulane and Ole Miss, even though Tulane's not Sun Belt. I think like a Tulane-Ole Miss game last year. Sure.
Let me ask you this about Saturday. In a second. That's next. Very important question for Darrell coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings all the same intention to how they craft every model. Like our players, we sweat into every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The NFL is here. College football is here. We are back, baby. And if you're not at FanDuel, you're missing out. Hey, new customers at FanDuel can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We mentioned the spread just a moment ago. Auburn, 25.5-point favorites over South Alabama. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us today. Darrell, let's flip this. We talked about why Auburn could struggle on Saturday at the beginning. I think you're still predicting a double-digit win. You said they may even cover. What will it say to you if that just doesn't happen and Auburn comes out and treats them as if they're Ball State, or maybe they're even more crisp against South Alabama than they were against Ball State? And you look up at halftime and it's 28-3 or something like that. What kind of message would that send to you? What would that prove to you?
It would prove to me that they are definitely every week improving, which is what you want to see as a coach.
Yes.
That they are executing, that they are getting things worked out, they are getting things fixed that may have been early bugaboos, and that they are getting honed and ready at the most opportune time to go play Oklahoma on the road. The timing would be perfect. And that may be the case. It may be that Hugh Freeze does a little bit more as far as play calling is concerned against South Alabama than they did against Ball State. Because look, people will say you shouldn't need to do that. Zach, Ball State is a horrible football team. They're one of the worst teams I've seen other than an FCS team to come into Jordan Hare. There was no threat offensively. There was no threat in the passing game. Defensively, I was surprised that they only gave up 42, to be honest with you. So I don't know what they did. I thought Auburn would have and should have gotten into the 50s. I'm not looking a gift horse in the mouth. I'm just being honest and saying that, sometimes you just come out and I don't want Auburn to take this game lightly. I want them to use it in the vein that you just said. Look sharp, look better, give Oklahoma even something more to worry about.
Yeah, which is what this game is 100% about. This is the last tune-up game before your season really gets here. Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia, Missouri. Those next 4 games define your season. That's it. If you go 3-1, you have the chance to compete for a playoff spot. If you're 2-2, all of your goals are still in front of you. If you go 1-3, 8-4 still on the table, but it gets tougher. Right? I mean, that stretch is going to define potentially Hugh Freeze's tenure at Auburn. I mean, this is a big next month that we're about to run into. And so this is your last opportunity to kind of prove these things. The way Hugh Freeze was talking about him, I don't think that they're taking him lightly. There's a lot of stuff that could go right here. We're going to talk more specifically about the running back situation in a second. Hugh Freeze highlighted South Alabama's wide receivers. If that's their strongest matchup, I'll take Auburn's corners over South Alabama. And once again, the trench play, I think, is the great divider of all of this. I mean, we've seen it in the early part of the season so far, with the exception of Florida. The SEC has done a good job playing other conferences, and most of it has to do with trench play. Quarterbacks and overall athletes help, but trench play is the great
equalizer,
I guess.
Yeah.
When it comes to why the SEC is able to dominate consistently every other conference. And that should be the case Saturday. And I want them to take some pride in that. If you're Keldrick Fox, you're not going to push us around. If you're Xavier Chaplin or Connor Lewis, we are about to move you off the line every single play and make sure that not for 1 second you think you have a chance. I want to see that killer instinct. And that has been lacking with this team. This team looks better than it did a year ago, looks better coached than it did a year ago, looks more talented than it did a year ago. They're still not that killer instinct. I want them to step on their throats and not give them any sort of breath from the very first play. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I think the way to completely disprove my theory on how this game could start out is for Auburn just to come out and start quickly. I was really surprised that when the Auburn won the toss, they didn't get the ball first against Ball State. I would love to see them do that against South Alabama, go right down the field, score, and send a message. That's how you do that. You jump up 14-0, 21-0, and then you don't leave
the other
hope.
way, Darrell. If they get the ball, force a quick 3 and out, then all of a sudden, you get all that back.
True, you do, and you get the ball to start the second half, which is
great.
What happened.
Yeah.
But I in this scenario, I would just want to see the offense go to work. I mean, I just would. I'd want to see them get the ball and go down the field and get going as far as vertical passing game, whatever it is. So, I agree. You want to start quickly and you want to make sure that there is none of that hope. And you do realize we are overmatched here. I do think South Alabama has better athletes than Ball State as well. They've got some SEC type athletes on that roster. Mm-hmm. So it's the perfect time to play them as a tune-up and make a statement before you go on the road to play Oklahoma.
It's amazing to me that these teams have never played each other.
Blows my mind.
It's amazing to me.
Of course, South Alabama's only had a program the last 10 years, 10, 15 years. So it's not like, and they've played UAB once, Auburn has. So it's not like they've had as much opportunity.
Yeah, surprised by it.
They won't play Troy. I understand that. That's just not going to happen in football. But yeah, I'm surprised they haven't played. When Joey Jones was South Alabama's coach, I would have thought they would have played Auburn. So good in-state game, good tune-up. Let's hope Auburn starts really, really quickly and fast.
Yeah, on both sides of the ball. Once again, that could be Auburn getting the ball first and going down and scoring, which, I mean, that's been an issue. Slow starts to halves have been an issue offensively so far. It'd be nice to have a good start going into, if you're treating this as a dress rehearsal for Oklahoma, it'd be nice to be able to say, like, okay, like we have gone out there and had at least one fast start so far. And I don't know how you emulate that. Like, I don't know how you emulate that in practice. I'm not sure.
I don't think you can. I think you just, that's why you're glad
like you start practice. It's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Go.
I mean, you
can't do that.
I really want to see, they, like I said, the slow starts have been there a little bit. This could change rather quickly Saturday. That's what I want to see. The biggest thing I want to see is a quick, fast start.
All right. So the running back situation is interesting. Sadly, at this point in the season, I didn't see this coming. What does the running back room need to do against South Alabama? Well, it starts with Jeremiah Cobb, and I think it ends with Omar Mabson. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Gerald, we love Monarch Money. It's so like there's money, you got accounts all over the place, and they want you to download different apps to track different things. Not anymore. Monarch Money can bring it all together, and that's important.
Absolutely. Budgeting, where it goes, forecasting, planning, all that right at your fingertips.
Yes. So, I mean, obviously the more spread all of your money is, the tougher it is to track it all. Don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. You can use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for a half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. We love Alumni Hall. It's our favorite place to buy Auburn gear over at Alumni Hall. 3 great physical locations in Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. I go to the Tigertown location often. We can't drive by it without one of my kids being like, let's go see Aubie. And that's great. I know you buy all your Auburn gear at Alumni Hall as well.
I do. Online, I've actually gotten a couple of things at Huntsville when I've picked up some cheerleader outfits for my grandchildren, my granddaughters. I was in Huntsville doing some business, so it was nice to check out that location. Love Alumni Hall.
Yep. Students and faculty, as well as military and all first responders, can get 10% off with a valid ID in the store. And also, for every $150 you spend, you can get $10 in hall cash to use for your next visit. So check them out. Alumni Hall. That's where we buy all of our Auburn gear. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. The running back room will be the story going into this game, especially if Damari Alston does not play. Hugh Freeze said it was a game time decision. The way Freeze talked about it on Monday, I don't think he wants to play Damari Alston. We're reading between the lines. He's usually pretty honest. Like, I think if he thought Damari could play, I think he would have said so. So I don't think they want to play Damari. I think they're going to have the question in regards to, like, all right, Jeremiah Cobb, Omar Mabson, is Alvin Henderson ready to be RB3? Do you need RB3 in this situation? Do you give more attempts to Eric Singleton or Malcolm Simmons? Do you let Jackson Arnold carry it 4 or 5 times? There are options. It's just interesting to kind of speculate what exactly they're going to do.
Our own Kyle Rush said that Damari Alston looked like he could play if he needed to Saturday at practice when he went to practice yesterday.
Yeah.
I think the scenario is you dress Damari Alston as opposed to last week they didn't dress him. You leave him on the sideline as a statue and don't plan on using them unless it's break glass in case of an emergency. And you hope that that never happens. I think you give Cobb about 15 carries. You give Mabson about 8 to 10 this time. Maybe let Jackson Arnold run it a couple times and let Eric Singleton or Malcolm Simmons on a jet sweep run it a couple times. And I would not be opposed to letting the walk-on, the Justin Jones, I guess is his name, like he did. He carried it late against Ball State. Maybe late in the fourth quarter, when the game's out of hand, give him a couple carries.
Rather give him carries over Alvin?
If Alvin's ready to play, no. But we didn't see Alvin last week in a 42-3 game.
I was a little surprised by that.
So maybe they wanted him to have another week of practice. I would prefer to see Alvin. I'd prefer to see Alvin right after Omar, Mabson, and him to get 5 or 6 carries. I'd love to see that. Me
too. Is there a point where you're like, I don't want Jackson carrying it or getting hit X amount of times? To me, I think 4 or 5 is kind of the number in my head.
That's the number. The magic number I had too was 4 or 5. Keep it a couple times on an RPO scenario, just to kind of keep people honest. Again, to reiterate what Freeze said last week, they did not call one design run for Jackson Arnold. The times he ran it was plays broke down, he improvised, or he scrambled out of a sack. And of course, you have to do that. If it's there, you take it. If they're dropping deep in soft coverage and they give you 20 yards of green grass, by God, you better run it and not do what Justin Fields did against the Steelers and throw it on 4th down and lose the game. That little you like to take my little Baltimore Ravens Steelers shot, so I thought I'd throw one in there for you.
There you go. There you go. I can't talk any smack this week. We're 0-1.
There you go. So I think that's what you're going to see. I also saw something that was very encouraging. I know we're talking about running back questions, but Kyle mentioned they worked a lot on the middle of the field and vertical passing game. And Auburn hasn't done that a lot. They've gone to the sidelines. They've gone to the outs. I would like to see more. Now that's because the other two teams took that away, but I do want to see some things up the seam between the hashes, middle of the field.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little surprised with how teams have defended Auburn up to this point of trying to take away the run, where I don't think that's questionable anymore. Auburn can run the football. This is an offense who can run the ball. The offensive line's built for it. The quarterback's built for it. The running backs are good. But they're still going to rely on them to start this game. And there's going to be a team, it might be South Alabama, that says, hey, we're not going to win this game unless we stop the run.
And they load the box and Jackson Arnold.
And then we get to see what happens.
That was absolutely crazy. And Cam Coleman goes absolutely crazy. And Simmons and Singleton. Yes, that some team.
That's how I would defend Auburn. If I was playing against Auburn, I'm saying, Jackson, I'm making you throw it on me.
Yeah. You have to pick your poison in that scenario. And in an RPO system, I'm very comfortable with him doing that. I'm letting him throw it 30 times. I just am. So,
I would like to see more of the normal offense. I'd like to see a lot more RPO on Saturday.
Yep. Me too.
Especially early on. If you get early third quarter and you want to get a few more reps on the vertical passing and all that, that's fine. Great. But let's run the full offense at the beginning.
I don't think, and I'm a little disappointed, I don't think Auburn played as many of its young people that are backups and its second and third teamers that they wanted to on offense Saturday. They got in the game a lot later than I think the coaching staff would have preferred.
Yeah.
And that starts with Deuce Knight and everybody else. So I'd like to see a lot more of that. If, you talk about a dream scenario, the end of the third quarter, you're playing all your backups because it didn't happen against Ball State. And that's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah. I predict that happens. I think that happens on Saturday. I'm with you. I mean, it's only going to take a few minutes of Auburn executing at the level that they can to distance themselves enough in this one. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. Darrell Dapprich, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Wednesdays and Fridays with you. And then, of course, the reaction show that we drop Sunday morning, which is always a lot of fun. It'll be done a lot earlier this weekend, right?
That's right. But we'll still go up Sunday morning, just for
Yes,
clarification.
yes,
We'll still
yes.
go up Sunday.
You'll see daylight behind me is what I'm saying instead of lights.
That's right.
Probably. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.